All right, I want to make a video on how to get started with this CRX. To get started with it, first we need to power it up. So I want to go over a couple things. This is your first time at the table. These are the things you need to look for to turn it on. So over here, we have a power strip. Everything is plugged into that power strip. Air compressor, IO, robot, it's all plugged into the power strip. So if you can't get something to turn on, that's the first spot to check. So I'll go ahead and turn that on. You can see our lights have come on. If our air compressor needed air right now, it will come on as well. The robot has power going to it, but it has its own disconnect that we haven't turned on yet. So nothing powered up on the robot side. Looking at the front of the controller here, we have a disconnect on the front. We can flip that on, and that disconnect now powers up the tablet that controls the robot, as well as the robot itself. So that takes a couple minutes for everything to initialize, but those are the two places to turn this on. Turn the power strip on and turn the disconnect for the controller on. If you turn the power strip on and you still don't have air, there is an air compressor behind this controller that has a switch on it. It's normally left in the on position, but just in case it doesn't turn on, you can turn that on as well. All right, we powered the robot on. The next thing we want to look at is the tablet. So the CRX robot is just programmed by a tablet. This is just an Android tablet in a holder provided by FANUC, but there's nothing really special about the tablet. So looking around the teach pendant here, we have an e-stop. So we have our teach pendant e-stop at the top. We have our grab handle on the back, as well as our dead man switch. So this dead man switch works just like the legacy teach pendants. It has resting, it has that center position, and then it has a full press. On the back, then we have our cable that communicates to the robot that goes back to the robot controller. On the front here, since we just have a Android tablet, right, we have some buttons up here. And even with the robot turned off, so I turned the robot back off for this demonstration. This is just an Android tablet, right? It functions just like any Android device would. We will be here in the FANUC Teach Pendant. So I'm going to go ahead and power this robot back up so you can kind of see what that looks like. So you can see now that the robot is powered up, our tablet is charging again. The tablet is always charging as long as the robot is on. All right, our robot took a second to fully power up. I have a red light on the base of the robot acknowledging that the robot is initialized and active. It also means there's a fault with it. So what we need to do to get started is we need to open up the FANUC app on the home screen called Tablet TP. Once we do this, it will go through and connect to the robot, make sure everything is okay, and do an initialization. If you just powered the robot on and you're currently watching this, it may take longer. I powered the robot up previously and then opened the app, so things popped up a little faster. One thing to note is it always comes up on the screen that it was on last. So if it pops up on a screen that you don't know, don't be worried about that. I'll show you how to get back to a known spot. We have a couple prompts in the beginning here, one being payload confirmation. This is asking for the payload code. That code is 4 number ones. So it's 4-1. Hit OK. Then I get what payload schedule I want. It's currently set on 3. If I hit this drop down, I can see some different payload schedules for the weight of it. We're just going to leave it on 3 for right now. Are you sure the robot's not in contact with any people? Yep. And you're confirming the success? Yes. And now we are in to the FANUC. So now that we are into FANUC, first thing we want to learn is navigation. because maybe it's on a screen that you do not want it to be on. So first thing we'll look at up here is these three dots and lines. This is like your menu. So we can see here we have a drop down menu of many different areas. Production is just what it sounds like. So this screen would be for you've programmed it, and this is just the screen it naturally stays on. You can see you have some start, stops, and aborts and reset buttons on here. We can also navigate around the robot. We can see it visually. Three fingers will drag it around, 2 fingers will zoom in and out, and just 1 finger will rotate around. So we can see our CRX in a virtual space. If we hit here, the next one down is teaching. Teaching gives us where we can select a program. This is where we can open a program, start a new program, delete a program. And then it also gives us access to editor. Editor is where we edit that program. So this is where we make adjustments to programs, create programs, delete, things like that. Working our way down the list, we have setup. Setup is around our tool frame, user frame setup. We can set up our safety DCS. We can do some payload calculations. We can also set up vision. Status, we get our current position screen. So just like on the other FANUCs, we can get the current position of the joint, user, or world frames. We also get an alarm status. So if we have alarm status, you can see the list here. You can also see the active alarms on the top, across the top here. But if you need a little more detailed list, this is where you can get it. On resetting alarms, it can be done from any screen. If I come back to production, we can see our alarm stayed up here at the top. Our alarm stayed up here at the top, and we can hit this reset button. That reset button is how we reset alarms. So if we have a multiple, we just have to hit that a couple times. If we need to see what the multiples are, we can come in here to alarm status and see that list. Coming back to here, next we have I/O. This is where we can see any input or output sensors. So we have DO for digital input, or DI for digital input, DO for digital output. We can see the current status of them. We can also simulate. We have some analog inputs and outputs, some robot inputs and outputs. We have some registers for the last there. And then we have utility, which is file backups or power cycles. Down at the bottom, we have plugins. We don't have it on at the moment, but we have a electronic shunt gripper, and we have the plugin installed to operate that. So that's a little bit of navigation. I will come back here to just select a program as a generic screen to start on. And I want to talk about some of these other buttons. So up here we have the speed, the current speed of the robot. We have the current program that it is in. So up here at the top, we have our teach pennant enable. So right now our teach pennant is disabled or off because we have that tablet symbol with a line through it. If we touch that, we have the tablet with a finger touching it, meaning that this is now active. We also got an alarm here that says our teach pennant has been enabled, and we can reset that. That is just a warning. We can come down here, and we have some operations down here. So we have our play. We can cycle through our program. So with our teach pennant enabled, we have our run, and we have a forward and a backwards. So when I slide that forward, our program starts to cycle step by step forward through our program. We can also go backwards through our program. We also have a stop button and a start from beginning. We have a override speed down here. So if our program is programmed at 100%, but we're just testing, we can be down here in 30%. The other thing we have down here is robot operation. this is where we can jog or move the robot. So starting on jog right here, we have our standard jog methods just like on the legacy FANUCs. So we are in joint mode and you can see all of our joints. Just like jogging on the FANUCs, we have to have our teach pen enabled and have to have our dead man switch pressed. But with those two things pressed, and I'll try to move it slow, I can rotate the whole entire robot. So you can probably see my camera that's on the end of the robot right now. You can see my frame moving a little bit. That is just because I'm jogging the robot joint by joint. If I want to jog in Cartesian or world, I just change it and I press apply. And now you can see I have the XY. So if I jog a little bit in XY, you can see now I'm just moving in Cartesian mode and it's moving any axis it needs to keep that on that coordinate field. So just like the others, we have X, Y, Z, and then we have our rotate around X, Y, Z. You can change the speed of that down here. You can also select your user frame and tool frame and payload if you need to change that. Next screen is the manual teaching screen. I'll reset that alarm. The manual teaching screen is like zero gravity mode. So we'll start with free. If I push the dead man switch right now, the robot just goes into a zero gravity mode where I can push, pull, twist. I can do whatever I want with it. I can put it, I can move it around however I need. In a free mode, it's going to move any axis that I interact with. Translation moves the same exact way, but now it locks it in an XY coordinate system. So it is moving more in a Cartesian mode, except for I'm pushing it with my hand. I'm not physically jogging with buttons down here. And then rotation is the same, but just locks it on the rotation of that axis. So you're now rotating around the tool center point. So the tool center point is now a fixed point and you're rotating around that. Where translation, your tool center point is a fixed point and you're working in an XY coordinate system. This is really nice for palletizing, for moving straight up and straight down. If you're in free mode, it can be very difficult to keep that tool straight. Jog mode is obviously another great way to do that as well. You are just more disconnected as far as you're moving it here rather than physically pushing the robot here. One of the last things I want to show you here is if you become accustomed to the legacy teach pendant style. I personally have, but just mainly because this is newer to us here in electromechanical. We do have a button down here that can change to legacy mode. So you see now we still have a touchscreen, but now I have all of those options that are just like on the handheld legacy teach pendants. And we can just hit that and go away and go back just to our normal operation. So that's pretty much a walk around of the FANUC CRX, how to turn it on, how to navigate through it, turn it on, jog with it, move it around, learn how to interact with it, and we will get programming soon.